What is the most ridiculous thing you've seen someone do in an attempt to get laid? You know, in college on day 1 of a new semester they do introductions where they go through the class and ask who you are and why you're taking the course. Hi. My name is Donnell and I'm taking Intro to Women's Studies because it's a fine place to meet some bitches. He did it with a straight face and he wasn't even joking. Or maybe he thought he was joking. The silence was deafening. He disappeared before the midterm. Fall directly on their face in front of the person, hoping to trigger a maternal instinct. A buddy in college was dating this girl for a few weeks. He announces to us that she agreed to have sex with him but she wanted a nice date night first. Anyway, a few days before the scheduled date, she has to cancel because her grandmother died and she has to go to the funeral. He immediately went over to her place to beg her to skip the funeral. Rent a sports car just to total it on the way to the girl's house. I was at a party the first week of college and one of the freshman guys was standing in the backyard puking his guts out. He stopped for a minute, looked up and with a sly smile said, "What's up, ladies?" Still makes me laugh. My buddy Esteban met a girl in college who was into Metro Men. So he shaved his armpits and eyebrows, and painted on fake eyebrows and put on makeup and a tight tank top and some skinny jeans and went to our frat party like that. He didn't get laid but he got a ton of attention from the gay guy Victor. I was at a party where a guy was really into me. We flirted a bit and made out. But clearly he was hoping for more. When I told him I was going home, he literally shouted, "Wait. I have a 9-inch thick dick," in a desperate, final attempt to seduce me. I think it's hilarious looking back on it. The only thing I wonder is, was it a 9-inch thick dick or a 9-inch thick dick? Yo baby. I got a dick like a can of coffee. I tried skiing with a girl I was interested in back in high school. She was a really good skier and I had never tried before. Being a 16-year-old boy, I was way too confident and decided to hit her favorite hill to impress her. I couldn't manage to pizza and was flying down the hill at worrying speeds with no way to stop. There was a kid right in my way. So I was left with a choice. I decided to take a fall and ended up doing a full flip before landing on my back. She did not find it impressive. Some dude in high school came to a bunch of girls and said, "Hey babes. I found the solution to end the period's pains. Just get pregnant. If you want I can help with that." He got detention for harassment. Watching guys blow whole paychecks trying to get to strippers that gladly took their money. Had a buddy back in our 20s do this. He was like, "No dude. She really likes me. We're gonna see each other again tonight. Where you are, homie. She works there. Asterisk. I'm talking thousands." He had to ramp up his weed dealing to speed and coke. Then he went to prison for it. Never even got the tip wet. As far as I know. Someone once came up to me and after we talked for a few minutes he asked me if I knew the capital of a couple of states. I did until I got to South Carolina. Also we were on Bourbon Street and it was like 1 AM. After I told him I didn't know he said that I was just really stupid. I turned around and quit talking to him. 2 minutes later he tapped me on the shoulder and asked if I wanted to go back to his hotel. I do not understand negging. One of my co-workers at the call center agreed to hook up with some customer because the customer thought he sounded cute on the phone after their 3-minute chat about her phone bill. He met her at a train station nearby and later told us she was 100% bunny boiler material and he bounced before they were even meant to get off the train. No Sherlock. What does bunny boiler material mean? I'm a mechanical engineer specializing in automotive aftermarket design. I'm also a huge gearhead. To top it off, I'm a woman. I've had guys tell me at cars and coffee events that my car was theirs. Or that they did the work on my car. I do it all myself. I make a game of seeing how big of a hole I can get them to dig. At community college, this guy from one of my classes came up to me in the lunchroom and asked me to make a paper airplane. Apparently he didn't know how to make one. Kinda weird, but who am I to judge? So I start making him one and he tells me he's gonna put his phone number on it and throw it at some cute girl eating her lunch. I thought this was odd because he was always walking with this girl I thought was his GF. Anyways, after I give it to him, he goes and throws it at this girl. Except he misses and it lands on the floor next to her. So he walks up and repeats this until he hits her. It was incredibly awkward, but I give him props for having no fear or embarrassment about this. My mate shat his pants at a house party because he heard the girl he was desperate to play was into play. Not so surprisingly, the rumor wasn't true and the girl really wasn't into it. She screamed, threw her drink at him and ran away. The smell was so bad a few people threw up. My mate went a bit mental and threw at people who were laughing at him. The owner of the house threw pretty much everyone out and my mate didn't stop drinking for about 2 weeks. As he didn't want to deal with the embarrassment. It's never mentioned anymore and he's with a lovely bird now. Edit. To clarify, he was very drunk when he did this. And yes, he threw literal. I got married at 17 yo. I was told there would be sex anytime I wanted. I was lied to. My dad just cashed in his $14k retirement package so he can go marry his girlfriend in Ghana that he met online 6 months ago on a pro-Trump Facebook group. My family is sure he's about to get scammed, but nobody has been able to stop him or convince him otherwise. I had a bunch of people over for an annual sledding and gaming day. Most of them came from out of town. One dude decided to stay late, and I ended up letting him stay on the couch. It was a last minute decision, but whatever. So he's the only one left and we're chatting on the couch together. I'm awkwardly trying to find an out so I could go to bed. It's a normal conversation. And the day was filled with friendly activities. So a fake, there was no flirty interaction with this dude at all. I finally excuse myself and stand up. He decides to stand up with me. Pretends to fall down. And pulls me back onto the couch with him. I ignored it. Got back up again and wished him goodnight. And left pretty quickly. I know it's not outrageous. But I found it super lame and kind of dirty. Especially since the dude wasn't someone I was really close with. Just part of the friends group. And I had recently gotten out of a long-term relationship around that time. Once at a party, some guy went up to me and my friend and started grinding on me while I continued to just stand there having a conversation with my friend. He then stole my drink and tried to steal my friend's drink, unsuccessfully, then turned me around, kissed me, slobbery gross bad kiss if anyone was curious, and said let's go back to your place. Semicolon. Semicolon. Needless to say, he did not get laid that night. My brother purchased a condo in another city away from his wife so he could get with this lady that he'd been dating. How is condo loose? Fill up an empty bottle of clear liquor with water and then proceed to stand on a table and chug the entire thing. I was seeing this guy and went over his house. Things got heated and we proceeded to make out. He pulled out his dick and pushed my head down. I had no intention of having sex as I asserted to him that I just wanted to hang out. He starts begging. Persists with please. Only the tip. For 2 minutes. I have an acquaintance from high school. Used to be great friends. But drifted apart. He has always been kinda on the edge of being neckbody. But went over the edge in recent years. Lots of social media posts about him being a real gentleman. White knighting. Compliments any photo of a woman. Etc. You get the picture. He sank to a new level recently when he tried to squeeze himself into a married woman's life. He poses as a friend and does anything she says to try and make her see him as more than a friend. She uses this to her complete advantage by using him to sell her MLM products. He posts on social media about her products being revolutionary and such. I assume she has him buy her weight loss products as well. I sent him a message when I saw the first MLM post informing him not to get involved in MLMs as they are pretty unethical. I'm pretty sure he blocked me. The good old mutually parasitic relationship. Was at a party at a friend's house and starting talking to a pretty attractive girl. Wasn't flirting with her super hard, but we were both sociology majors, so we actually had something to discuss. This guy, we'll call him Dan, comes over and deadass just starts interrupting us every sentence. Not even contributing to the convo. Just interrupting anything we said. I was just annoyed and said it. Went to go talk to some other people. As the night goes on and we get drunker, Dan then starts following this girl around the party like a lost puppy. Not even in a subtle way, just walking 2 steps behind her. At this point she's told him multiple times to leave her alone. And bear in mind we're all in our 20s. This guy just keeps creepily following her around until she eventually left. It was just bizarre. A guy once asked me on a date, telling me he had an extra ticket to a concert for either Friday or Saturday. He wasn't sure which and would have to check. Young and dumb me. I told him which day I was free, and that happened to be when the tickets were. So I said yes. Turns out he bought them after. Once he was sure I'd go. Also turns out the tickets were $300 each. Very good seats. Also turns out he was married. Convert to Mormonism. Most of his friends don't speak to him anymore. Including myself. Old friend got a tattoo of this girl's name to impress her. If he'd bothered to have a real conversation with her, he'd have learned that she was a lesbian and hated the concept of couples tattoos. Leave the shindigs to go home and dress up in their lederhosen, that old German outfit you imagine when you think of Oktoberfest, to impress the German exchange student. Travel 50 miles to meet a Reddit stranger. We're talking about marriage now. Once saw a guy dive into the shallow end of a pool to impress a girl. Damn, that's luck that someone put a stapler in the shallow end of the pool. A jock spent at least 20 minutes in an all-night cafe trying to impress a hot college girl of his intellect and sensitivity by giving his oral book report on The Watchmen, a superhero deconstruction and Cold War allegory, which was, according to him, about love. He completely failed to notice that not only was she laughing at him the whole time, also laughing at me. Because she saw I was visibly in pain listening to him. But also that she was still 100% DTF anyway. Fly to Belgium. For a girl he'd only known through an MMO. Pretend to be a hick and like country. Now don't get me wrong, I have nothing against country or hicks really, but this guy, he was neither of those. He was a city kid who moved to a small ass hick town. Never worked on a farm, never lived on a farm, hell he didn't even live near a farm. Junior high and first few years of high school he was an emo. Dressed in black, listened to My Chemical Romance and Atreyu, but he wanted to start dating this girl, so he started dressing like a hick. Wearing kicker boots. Heavy with a giant ass belt buckle tucked in long sleeve button up shirt. And cowboy hat. Yeah, he really fit the part. To be fair, he did manage to get with the girl, but I guess she wasn't all that he expected. Or the fact that his new friends actually worked pretty hard on their family farms and it wasn't all mudding and bonfire parties. But yeah, didn't last that long. My friend, in order to sleep with a girl he was seeing at the time, convinced her that they should just genuinely go to a motel and sit there and talk about feelings and should just sleep together, literally just sleep lying next to each other, hugging and cuddling. Well, to your surprise it sorta worked. Because she fell asleep. And said she had a good time. And said it really mature of him doing that. By mature she meant you just pulled some serious The Notebook on me. Lad got laid. Hit on my wife right in front of me. A guy in college kept hitting on the woman next to me during prob and stats all semester long. Loudly enough that most of the class could hear him pretty clearly. In between the professor telling him to knock it off. Finally he says, "You're like a cheater. And I'm like a cheater too. What if we were just cheaters together?" Hey. The professor, having finally had enough, turns around and she says bragging about being fast is not a pickup line. Now move to the back of the class or leave. Whole class lost it and he finally shut up. Ask out every single girl in your class in the same day. No joke, I was warned with 2 minutes in advance that this dude would ask me out because he literally asked everyone. He was incredibly desperate and I had to firmly tell him no. Not interested a handful of times before I just walked away while he was in mid-sentence. Happens a lot at where I live. People get married just so they could have sex. Then their lives fall apart. My brother had a roommate that considered himself as a player as well as being a pathological liar. He was very good looking and charming. I'll give him that. But he was a straight up dog. He told some girl he had picked up somewhere and brought over that his mother had just died of cancer and did his best to portray the role of a grieving son. Even managed to let out some Oscar-worthy tears. Well, playing the sympathy card certainly worked out in his favor and she ended up sleeping with him. After she left the next day, he laughed about it, calling her a dumb bitch. Now, about his mother, she was very much alive and well. A guy on Tinder told me that his dad had stock shares in Ulta and Forever 21. So that meant I could pick whatever I wanted and he'd get it for me. I have to say that I was not terribly impressed. Drunkenly, but dead serious, offer himself for a 3-way to his friend and that friend's girlfriend. The girl was his cousin. Changed their whole lifestyle to be a Burning Man hippie. Super into crystals and yoga and deep conversations, which are really just showcases for what level of Burning Man cliche they've ascended to. Honestly, it probably works though. Girl once hit on me in a bar with the line, "I really need to get head and you are the least bad thing left here." Definitely ridiculous if she was willing to leave with me. Give a coworker $200 in a birthday card hoping he'd get some. She threw it in a drawer. Unopened. Till he mentioned it to another coworker, who the girl had since began dating. She was a little confused as to why he'd put that much in a card for her. Until her boyfriend explained it. Yeah, she wasn't pleased. Wear a scuba dive suit to a bar. Took dive bar literally. Saw my dad flirt with my mum. My buddy was way into this girl our senior year of high school. And we were all at this party getting hammered. We were hyping him up saying he was going to get laid. She was into him. etc. And she really was. He was nailing it. We all keep drinking and she is really drunk. But the night goes on and the party is cooling down. He's making moves and they are about to kiss and the girl leans over and just pukes like a spurt. Wipes her mouth. And goes back in to kiss our friend. And this man, so desperate to fire one off in a wench, made out with her puke mouth and all. A friend of mine was 18 and had only had his driver's license for a couple of months. He was flirting with an exchange student he'd met earlier that year at his school via texts and she was teasing him to come visit her. So at around 11 PM he stole his mum's car and attempted to drive from Germany to Italy. Without a map. Google Maps wasn't a thing back then. Police stopped him in France. Last year I was on a trip with several friends through South Korea. It was a wonderful time. However, one of the guys basically spent a lot of time on his phone just constantly swiping through Tinder. He found some chick that wanted to hook up and he wanted us to cut our trip to the big amusement park from an all-day visit to about 45 minutes so that he could go and meet up with her in some random city while we just hung out. We said no. So he took a cab. Had dinner with her. Then realized somewhere along the way he'd lost the hyper slippery metal container that held all of his cards, which had fallen out of his pocket multiple times on this trip already, and couldn't pay the cabbie for a return visit to meet up with us. Crazy thing was, she wanted to meet up with him again when we got back to Seoul. Truffle shuffle. It's never failed me. That's because I've never tried it. But I admire the effort. There was a time I used to go on online chat rooms, just a casual time killing thing I did during work hours. I used to join public conversations where someone tried to offend some other users and sort of defend the guy or attack the offender a little. One day someone called somebody else gay. And after I said something about homophobia and the possible reasons behind the Atticus roast, Few guys PM'd me saying something like, "Hi, I'm gay too. Can we grab a coffee sometime?" I needed to explain I wasn't gay and that I'm doing it as I don't like bullying. One of the guys didn't care much and actually changed the tone and said, "Can I pay you to blow you?" and offered me X for it. I have rejected his offer. So he doubled it. Then doubled again. I turned him down. My friend made a desperate attempt to get laid on our night out at this club. We only had about 5 minutes until the club closes. So first, he signaled to us that he will be back and the people in my group were looking at each other like, what is he doing? Full stop. He walks directly into the dance circle where he spotted this girl in the red dress. Now we can still see him and what's going on because there was not many people there. He attempted to grind on this woman. Which, keep in mind, was the most awkward grind I've ever seen this man could have done. The woman wasn't even dancing with him, she was standing still as he was trying to grind on her. What made it even worse? He tried to whisper to her ear saying for her to come with us. She didn't really give him an answer, she just looked at him and looked at us and we literally left the club the minute she made eye contact with us. Stabbed the nurse who was looking after him, having been injured during the arrest for his previous RP charge. Flirt with me. If you insist. Text a dick pic. Don't. Just don't. Well, there was the time a girl wanted to have sex with me. A guy I met on Tinder and was talking to for like 2 weeks bought a car to drive to. 5 hours to see me. He's in my country's army and could leave the base on weekends. My town is the closest real place to the base, so a lot of them set their Tinder location to here. He didn't ask me or tell me first. I was under the impression I'd meet him when he had his 2 weeks leave about a month later. He had also taken a turn the days prior and was getting absolutely insane possessive. Talking marriage. Typical crazy army boy stuff. It got to Friday night and he sent me a surprise. I spent 10k on a car to drive down tomorrow to see you. Apostrophe. I may be the arsehole but I blocked him. Coincidentally, the night I blocked him I met my now boyfriend. When I was in high school, this guy in my class told me he had funny ways to flirt with girls to help him get laid. He told this girl right in class that he wanted to get a whiff of her butt. And she looked at him like he was crazy. Many people laughed. Except her. This was junior year of high school. I was in choir. And we took trips for competitions every spring. This year it happened to be in Chicago. And I wanna say the dues for the hotel, food and transportation were roughly $400 for the weekend. Now, our choir teacher was a babe and everyone knew it. But she was married and pregnant with her first child. I had an acquaintance who was super into her. Super bold. And had this whole plan to woo her during the trip. He wasn't even in choir. So he paid the $400 to come along on the trip for moral support, and that was somehow okayed. Flirted with her the whole time and she was hilariously suave in blowing him off. At one point one of the girls on the trip asked our teacher what she thought of him. He's a nice boy. Beats me why he spent all that money to come along with us. Some guy at a small hangout was talking about how he was chatting with 4 girls at once on Bumble and one would definitely pull through. Said this at around 10 PM. At around 12 one of the girls texted him to come over. His car was blocked in the driveway by his 2 drunk roommates. This guy offered to buy a pack of beer for each of them to move their cars. Did so. The bubbler wear a man S in his mouth while standing up. I can't admit this to anyone in real life, but I drove 300 miles to spend a weekend at a hotel with a stranger from Instagram I'd been talking to for a month. I didn't tell a soul where I was going or who he was. He easily could have murdered me. Didn't get murdered. Did get laid.